Hello everyone! First of all, thank you all for the feedback regarding the new graphics settings. I will try to keep them and try to maintain this high quality. Occasionally I might cover some older videos that I haven't uploaded yet and the quality might dip a bit, but in general I'll try to maintain this new improved quality because, well, it just helps with the rendering process because if there's less resources being spent on rendering all the waves, it means that usually the ship quality is significantly better, which, especially when I'm trying to introduce specific ships like this one that has a very distinct looking camo, I consider an advantage. The ship we're featuring today is the Bajie, or Bajie, I'm just gonna call it Bajie, which is practically an Izumo clone. It does have some small differences, but honestly, this is a ship, fairly unique premium in the sense that it's very easy for you to test if you would like to play this thing just by taking the Izumo out for a couple of test runs. If you think Izumo, the buffed Izumo, you gotta remember Izumo used to be really bad, whereas the current Izumo is honestly a very good ship. Or maybe not very good, but good ship. The current Izumo is a good ship, and taking that out for a couple of spins should be enough to tell you if you're gonna enjoy this ship or not. Since there's not too much in detail to compare between this one and the Izumo, I'm gonna be mostly focusing this game on how to play the Bajie or the Izumo, how to play it as a ship as opposed to what are the strengths and weaknesses so much of it. Starting off, the most obvious differences between the Bajie and the Izumo is the guns. That's basically all the differences, in fact. They are practically identical in every other way, but the guns are different. Most importantly, Bajie has a 32-second reload, whereas Izumo has a 30-second reload. 2 seconds, it might not sound like much, and it's not that noticeable, but obviously it does result in a loss of DPM. Bajie has more range though, as 25.4 kilometers instead of Izumo's 21.7. But considering both have spotter planes, honestly, never have I heard anyone really complain about Izumo being starved for range. So that's not really that, once again, very noticeable difference. The Sigma, however, as you can see on that pinpoint dispersion, which results in a bunch of overpens, I'll get into that later, the pinpoint dispersion is very good on the Bajie. And that's because the Bajie has a 2.1 Sigma as opposed to Izumo's 2.0. So 0.1 Sigma advantage. This game starts, by the way, with the enemy Ibuki torpedoing my smoked up DDs and killing both. So this is obviously shaping up to be a challenging game from the get-go. Bajie's gun traverses slower, 4 degrees per second instead of Izumo's 4.5. Once again, noticeable, but ultimately not really that big of a deal. And, well, obviously the final thing that really sets them apart is that Bajie will earn you extra credits and extra XP because it is a premium ship, unlike the Izumo, which is a tech tree ship. But besides that, they're basically identical. They have the same strengths and the same issues. Strengths, of course, being the AP penetration. Izumo's AP pen is completely bonkers. Izumo has better penetration than the Musashi at something like 15 kilometers. Only at 15 does the Musashi's shell weight finally overtake the penetration of the Bajie. But this thing can basically citadel anything across the map. It does have, of course, have some issues with these very fast, hard-hitting shells, and the issue is that the shell arming threshold is quite high, and thanks to the insane penetration as well and the fuse arming time, it means that you tend to get a lot of overpens. In fact, I've had games where I have had significantly more overpens than normal pens. So that will become an issue, and, well, that's something you can quite easily test in the Izumo, though. If you find it very frustrating, well, it's not going to be much different in this ship. The slightly better accuracy means you might be nailing some more citadels than you would normally and thus arming those shells, but overpens are basically just a fact of life when you're playing the Bajie. Overall though, we have lost 3 ships, including 2 of our DDs, but this Cossack is on the run. So there's no, and the enemy shore's kind of suicided, so there's no reason for me not to push aggressively. NC pops up, and this will give me a chance to show off what I just spoke of. Combination of great accuracy, great shell velocity, and great penetration means that BBs like NC, Iowa, any of those, giving broadside like that, are quite easily punishable. Of course, it all comes down to RNG in the end, as with most battleships, but 2.1 Sigma means that, well, obviously the influence of RNG is somewhat lessened. Keep in mind, I've often said that I am biased towards battleships that have a good dispersion. Or battleships that have reliable guns. If a battleship can have plenty of weaknesses, like the Izumo or the Bajie has, namely poor handling and crap AA, pretty crap concealment, it can have all these weaknesses, but if the guns are good, I'm probably going to enjoy it. And that's probably why I've been playing the Bajie quite a bit. I have like 30 plus games on my press account. I've really enjoyed this ship, and mostly it's the guns. Consistent guns, that's the easy way to win me over. But then again, if you've seen my Thunder reviews and so forth, you know that that's a bias I've always had. When I play battleships, I like to be able to punish ships that mess up when fighting me. Someone gives broadside, someone messes up, I like when my guns hit him. And it's always also been one of the reasons why I've generally disliked low gun count, poor dispersion ships. For example, Gneisenau was for a long time one of my most disliked ships. With the dispersion buffs, it's a bit better, but I still wouldn't say the Gneisenau is anywhere near my top favorite ships. Rune tries to run away, well, he's straight up fleeing. Keep in mind, Rune's armor is 27mm, and these guns are, what are they, 406? Actually, they might even be 410mm guns, and what this means is, of course, that you don't really care about that angle. They're 410, but in general in the game it doesn't matter if it's 406 or 410. What matters for both of these is that you can overmatch 27mm, which is Rune's armor, and thus his angling doesn't really help him much when I'm just taking pot shots at him like this. You saw how angled he was, still 2 penetrations, that is the power of that overmatch. At this point we're down 6 ships against 9, 250 points against 500, our entire other flank is completely collapsing, and this game is obviously shaping up to be in need of some heavy carrying. I'm trying to finish off the Rune. I don't want to overchase them. That's a mistake people often do. Cossack gets spotted again, and since my team seems to really struggle to kill this guy, I'm gonna take it in my hands to take a pot shot at him to make sure we finally get rid of him. But I am turning away. I'm not going to waste time, even though both of these guys are quite low HP. I'm not going to waste a bunch of time chasing them across the map, because as you can see on the minimap, D is collapsing, and if we lose all our teammates there before I get into position, I'm going to have to face 6-7 ships all alone without any support at all from my team. And it doesn't really matter how good of a player you are, with those kinds of odds, you will probably get overran. So obviously in this case we're gonna keep shooting these guys, but more importantly we're also gonna position in such a way that we can support our team on the other flank. This is one of the most common mistakes you'll see, and that's people overextending to chase into the enemy spawn. Getting kills and getting the points is important, it's good, but if it leaves your ship entirely out of position, it's usually not worth the trade. In this case, I'm gonna count on my team to be able to hunt down that NC. I'm gonna take one last shot at the Rune. I should be able to finish him. You can see how fast the shells are. It's less than 10-second travel time to, what, 17.8 kilometers? That is tremendously fast shell velocity, and it makes the Bajie very enjoyable to play. You will, however, see plenty of examples of those overpens, especially when fighting cruisers in this thing. Soyuz is giving broadside. Once again, this thing has insane penetration. I'm tempted to take the shot, but I actually switched to the St. Louis because I think the Sovietsky Soyuz has turned in too much for me to get any of those. Whereas something like a St. Louis is, if I could get the Citadels, it would help me significantly. My team is backing off and dying on this flank. I'm trying to get in a position where I can support them. And maybe if I help them with this NC, these 2 cruisers will also be able to join in and support me. A good way of dealing with your teammates overextending like this is just kill the thing they're chasing. Once they realize, well, he's dead, we can't keep chasing him, they will usually reposition themselves a bit more wisely. Because as you can see right now, my team is horrendous. Those 2 cruisers are basically completely useless. They're fighting 1 NC, but they're very far from the objectives, and they don't provide too much to the rest of the game. Sovietsky Soyuz turns out, so obviously knowing the huge citadel that this ship has, I'm gonna go for a pot shot. The citadel extends quite far to the back of the ship, so I think I do have a chance of catching him. and we do get one citadel before he hides behind the island. I'm giving a lot of broadside to the NC, but I'm not really too worried, because just like the Izumo, this thing isn't really that easy to citadel. Izumo has a turtleback. Now it can be penned and you can still be citadeled, but it doesn't happen often. Citadels on an Izumo are generally quite rare, especially for an NC at that range. NC has good shells, but the pen at this range will start to feel a bit lackluster. I finish him off. I of course have no such issues. Izumo guns are fantastic when it comes to penetration, and I finish off the NC as well, which means these two cruisers can now probably rejoin the battle, get some objectives and help us a bit. The Free de Grosse is an interesting target, but I think with the use of spotter plane I can see over the island, and it doesn't give me an island marker, which means I should be able to lob shells over, and that's exactly what happens. And I managed to get 2 citadels in on the Sovietsky Soyuz. Sovietsky Soyuz is of course monstrously tanky and a huge threat to me, so if I can get rid of him, it would make my life significantly easier. I hit his turret, not quite where I wanted. Note that the game is giving me no island marker at all, but when I shoot, I still hit the islands. Now, why did this happen? Was this a bug? No, it's mostly the fact that the island marker is the game decides if your shells are gonna hit the island marker based on the center of the ship. Now the issue with the ship like Izumo and Bajie is of course that the center of the ship is quite far behind the turrets themselves. So it thought I was shooting from the center of my ship, but when I was in fact shooting a bit more to the left, which meant I ended up hitting the islands instead. So keep that in mind, especially when you're shooting. Well, you see this quite often if you're coming around from behind an island and you shoot all your front and your back guns on your average battleship, and your back guns hit the island. There was no island marker, but your back guns still hit that island. The same thing happens if you're sailing into cover and you shoot and your front guns hit the island even though there was no island marker. That's once again because that value is calculated from the center of your ship, so it can be very misleading. Sovietsky Soyuz overturns, gives far too much broadside, so obviously I instantly punish him. Note that I am already quickly reversing because my team has completely died here. We're down to a 3 versus 5, and I know that the Sovietsky Soyuz could potentially just go for a ram. In fact, his best move right now would be going nose in and ramming me. It would basically guarantee the win for them. Instead though, he is giving once again too much broadside, so I aim high on his upper belt, and I actually get a citadel, which surprises me because I was just going for normal penetrations, but once again that insane penetration coming through and giving me a citadel. The game is still quite close, we're still down a ship, and they have a cruiser farming me, which is one of my priority targets, and of course the Friede Grosse is also full secondary spec, and those shells will start hurting. Izumo, like Bajie, does have 57mm deck armor, which means you're fairly resistant to HE spam, and of course I'm built into fire prevention to help mitigate this. But at this point I realize that's probably still not going to save me. I'm full reverse, but the rune does pop up. I'm telling him to not get himself killed. We have 3 caps, we just need to play safe. If he gets himself killed, we're gonna be in huge trouble. At this point, I don't think I can do too much damage to him, so I'm just gonna take pot shots at the cruiser instead. No point wasting shells on someone I'm not gonna be able to do much damage to when there's a much squishier cruiser available. I bait out the Friede Grosse to push in, and now I'm just gonna accelerate. The idea is I can get in behind that island, in behind that corner, in such a position that the Friede Grosse can no longer shoot his secondaries on me without pushing up. And what I want for him to do is to push up, because right now they're all able to shoot me, but my team isn't really able to shoot them. But if I push up in behind this island, in order to do damage to me, they have to push up. And the further he pushes up, the more my team can help me. So instead of leaving it basically a 2 versus 3 or so, or 2 versus 1, by hiding behind this island, he's forced to push up. And you can see my shores, he's taking pot shots over the island, my rune is farming him from behind me, and I get enough time to get a heal off and buy myself some time. No island marker, but if I shot right now, my shells would probably have hit the island, so I wait to make sure that I have cleared the island before I take the shot, finishes him off and get the Kraken. Note that even though that guy was being shot, the cap was not being reset. That tells me that the Yugumo has in fact entered the objective, and there is no way I can keep pushing here. In fact, I'm going to just full reverse. I'd love for the rune to be a bit closer here, because if that Yugumo rushes me, I will be in huge trouble. Is that 3? No, it's 4 plus 4, so that's the first set of torpedoes from the Yugumo. We are still going to keep reversing, because at this point we have no information. Is this a smoke Yugumo, or is this a reload booster Yugumo? If I push up and it's reload booster, I will basically have thrown the game, because it's a 3 versus 3, and I'm kind of the thing that's holding this game together. There's still 3 minutes to go. If the DD kills me, he can push down and maybe get another objective as well. So, playing safe, trying to get another heal off to give myself some margin for error especially, and also give myself some extra health to move with. I'm spotted. The only thing that could have spotted me is the DD, so I know he's here. I start pinging frantically to let my team know, and I instantly change course as well. In case he torpedoed, the further to my left I go, the more behind basically the more exposed the DD has to get in order to land torpedoes on me. Rune taking fights with St. Louis. I get another heal off. There's the first set of torpedoes. They're spotted very far away, so I assume my Rune is actually running Hydro. Both torpedoes are spotted, and that's all I needed to know. At this point, I'm undetected, which means the DD has gone back into the cap, and his torpedoes are used as well. So instead of making myself predictable, that is continually running away and risking both my cruisers being killed and the game being lost, I'm going to play aggressive again. My damage con is up, my last heal will be up in a minute, and this cruiser is overextending big time. He's trying to pick a fight with my Rune. Well, he has to, but he's giving too much broadside, and that Rune AP punishes him quite hard. Pop spotter plane to get vision past the island. The Rune finishes him off. I'm gonna turn in sharply, not just to potentially punish the Ashitaka, but if the DD is here with the combination of my spotter plane, I might gain vision of that DD on the other side. First pass of the spotter plane and no luck. We're gonna close even closer. I'm still not detected, so I know the Yugumo has to be on the left side of this island. I'm tempted to switch to HE, but I don't want to take the risk of expert loader. I get spotted. He's somewhere right in front of me. Keep my guns locked, seeing if I can maybe catch him. If he was pushing this way, he's going to be caught in the turn, and he is in fact caught in the turn. He is no doubt lining up torpedoes on me, but I take a pot shot at him. It doesn't matter if I overpen, I just need those 3 hits, and that's enough to get kill number 6. I know, of course, there's torpedoes coming in as well, so I turn hard left towards the Yugumo's position to make sure the torpedoes don't finish me, but he doesn't really have enough time regardless. I'm hoping to get some citadels on the Ashitaka to get kill number 7, but no such thing, and this game ends. And here, of course, we see a good example of, well, why the Bajie is ultimately superior than the tech tree version. It does have that premium credit modifier. 1.4 million credits for this game, 10,000 XP, Confederate, Dreadnought, Kraken and High Caliber. So 3 damage rewards and of course a survivability award for tanking enough damage for the team. 253,000 damage, 6 kills, 9 citadels, which is more than you'd normally get, but also note that pretty much all my citadels this game were against battleships. It's generally, you shooting cruisers, you get a lot of overpens in this thing. So most of the citadels you get will be just like in this game against other battleships. Looking at the detailed report, the team score, 2,900 base XP. The Shores did actually quite well, racking up 2,000. He didn't get any of the kills, but he just sat behind the island and he utilized the spotting I gave him, and he just farmed over the island, which is exactly what you should be doing when up-tiered in a squishy cruiser. So props to actually intelligent play there. Detailed report-wise, only actually 17,000 spotting damage. Maybe it was the Rune that provided the spotting. 2.1 million potential though, and a lot of HE damage, but as I mentioned, the Izumo is quite resistant to HE. As long as you got fire prevention, that 57mm deck plating reduces that incoming damage so much, especially because the Bajie doesn't really have any superstructure. I'm talking about the Izumo and Bajie a lot this commentary. Like I mentioned both of them because, as I said, besides the guns, they are essentially identical. So if you feel like, maybe I'd like playing this ship, maybe I'd enjoy it, just play a couple games into Izumo. If you completely hate the experience, you're probably gonna dislike Bajie as well. If you think it's pretty cool, and you figure, what would one extra Sigma at the cost of some reload do for this ship, then it might be a ship for you. Anyway, let me move on to my recommended build. Right, as always, I'll start with the modules. Consumable-wise, well, you should be running all premium for obvious reasons. But if you have to skimp on one, skimp on the spotter plane. It's the least useful of the Bajie upgrades. Turret survival, mostly because of that second turret, it likes exploding a fair bit. Additional tankiness, improved dispersion. Yes, this is the recent patch. I will be covering the upgrades and stuff to change, but Bajie doesn't change at all. You still go for the improved dispersion on the guns for obvious reason. Additional tankiness. Concealment, yes, your concealment is trash, but at least this helps you keep it at 13.5, which is pretty manageable. And faster reload on the main guns. Captain build wise, it is the standard battleship build for IGN battleships. Well, in general, the standard build, which is priority target, adrenaline rush, superintendent, fire prevention, concealment expert, expert marksman. This depends on, of course, how slow it is. You can go jack of all trades or expert loader before expert marksman if you have very fast turrets. But on the Bajie, especially because it has slower turrets than the Izumo, taking this cuts it down to 43. Not excellent, but better than it would otherwise be. Followed up with expert loader and last 2 points into jack of all trades. Anyway, that was my commentary on the ship. I also wanted to highlight the fact that I've been in contact with Wargaming regarding my 100,000 followers giveaway on Twitch, and we've come up with a preliminary list of ships that I'm going to be giving away, and the list actually ended up being over 70 ships. I'm actually not even kidding. We ended up with over 70 different ships, and I'm talking multiple Alaskas, Azumas, Shanbarts, Georgias. Of the tier 8 ones, we're giving away Massachusetts, Tirpitz, Roma, Kidd. I can't remember. I have free-for-all picks on the ships as well. Ultimately, I think it was Massachusetts, Lenin, Bayard, Kidd, Cossack, Tirpitz, Atago. I think it was 5 of each. And then I'm giving away 5 Haidas, Poltavas, Atlantas, T-61s, West Virginias, Warspites, and in 10 premium ships for the winner, for 10 premium ships of choice for separate winners as well. Basically, the prize pool is going to be absolutely gigantic, so if you can take the time to drop a follow on my Twitch channel, well, you'll want to do it later to take part in the giveaway regardless, but if you want to help me to reach that 100k, that would be very appreciated indeed, because trust me, that giveaway is going to be spice. Thank you for tuning in, thank you for watching, I hope you guys enjoyed it, and I will talk to you guys next time.